All right, everybody. Let's adjust the camera here. No, there we go. All right, everybody. Welcome to another podcast of Along the Watchtower, where I, Ellen Walker, take you through and talk some stuff about some things. I hope I have all this granola out my mouth. Anyway, um, where I take you through the days, the weeks, the months, sometimes years, news, and anything that I find relevant. I give you my opinion, I give you my understanding, my commentary, and sometimes the commentary and understanding of others. And with all of the different bits and pieces of information being codified and collected together, hopefully a picture of our reality, how our institutions function, right? The machinations behind the scenes comes clearer into view. At least that's the hope. Oops. Still working out the kinks, still trying to figure out some video stuff with the new software, so forgive me, viewers. Today's date is Thursday, March 4th, 2021. There have been quite a few developments as far as the minimum wage front. We recently saw Biden and the Democrats capitulate. And by Democrats, I mean like Joe Manchin. It's always Joe Manchin. This is why they call him King Manchin. However this guy, Joe Manchin, got to where he is, he it's more than just knowing the right people. You have to be able to maneuver the right people. And as a Democrat, quote unquote, it is amazing how this guy has single-handedly held up the stimulus, recurring checks, and now the minimum wage. Crucial things to who you would think would be the constituents of the poorest state in the Union, West Virginia. You would think that his constituents would have something to say about it, would be interested in removing him from office, but really it just seems like he is in such a solidified position that he's able to do this and get away with it. And I mean, to him, it's not getting away with anything. It's business as usual. He just does what he wants. King Manchin, unbelievable. So we recently saw not a reduction in the stimulus itself, but in the eligibility, the ceiling. So we'll talk about that. They've also reduced $400 unemployment. Instead of being through September, it ends in August. There's nothing more to talk about that. That just is what it is. Texas is full throttle opening up. There's been a lot of Rona news, right? A lot of beer bug news. I've been neglecting to talk about the coronavirus. So like Sorrento, for example, companies are coming out with all sorts of therapeutic drugs. There's going to be COVID nasal drops, right? That's one thing that the company I'm invested in. This is not financial advice at all or anything like that. But this is one thing that the company I'm invested in, Sorrento Therapeutics, is engaging in. They also have test sticks for point of care results so that, these pilots in Hong Kong, they were utilizing the COVID sticks as a testing procedure like before they were boarding so that when they got to where they were flying to, they had literally few hours old test results of negative. So there's some amazing things happening on that front. I'm hoping to try to reintegrate Mashable back into the case because the technologies that are coming out are fascinating. Let me just make sure because let me stop giggling. So there's just fun stuff coming out. Prosthetics controlled with your mind and does anybody remember the Tamagotchi? Well, there's pottery plants that have digital expressions that they can interact with the environment and have digital express. So just neat things like that. Things that, when I think about technology and culture, stuff like that comes up, right? Things that don't necessarily remove the human aspect of things, but evolves it. AI is coming, right? Sophie, the robot, we talked about that, how that's going to be, there's trying to get the mass production of that for global distribution. We definitely have seen movie scripts. I was watching a video of how this guy fed an AI script writer, an AI, all 9 Star Wars film scripts and then gave it a couple of tries because the first try was ridiculous, but gave it a couple of tries to develop its own episode 10. And I haven't watched I haven't watched the read through, but I watched the process and it was very fascinating. And so technology is really, it's integration into the very fabric of what it means to be human is increasing with rapid exponential speed. And there was a new Neuralink update, so I have to read about that. I have to go and look at that. But I mean, everything is evolving. The way we interact with technology is evolving. How deeply interwoven into our bodies, into our minds, technology has already changed. Look at the cell phone never leaving anyone's hands, right? There are those who argue that we are already cyborgs by proxy, right? Because imagine you don't know the entire compendium of human information, but Wikipedia does. And because you have instant access to your phone, which has instant access to Wikipedia, by extension, you then have that information available to you. So I can definitely understand by proxy how some say, oh my God, well, the cybernetic age is here. And I mean, it kind of is. It kind of has been for some time. But I'm just really excited about the future. Obviously, we know cryptocurrency is here. The landscape of everything is becoming digitized. Work is becoming automated. Finance, although already ones and zeros, is now becoming decentralized. So no more banks. Although there will always be banks because there will always be fiat because as long as you legally allow the ability for a central bank to control the resources of a country, there will always be a need to be able to print out money at any time, not tied to anything. So there will always be central banking. But at least we have the decentralized option finally cropping up. I keep going back to the Neuralink because being able to interface with technology with your mind without the need for external apparatus is I mean, this is a game changer on the landscape of video games, right? Deus Ex, for those of you who've played, it's an RPG that takes place in the near future to near future, in which everything is cybernetic, or you can think of like Ghost in the Shell, right? Although those are scary prospects, or Blade Runner, scary prospects. That unfortunately is a likelihood given the regression of culture that occurs with the extensions of technology, right? And that's the thing. The deeper down the rabbit hole we go, I guess the best analogy would be like spelunking, right? And you got a tether at the top, and you're going down deeper, and we're just loosening that slack, and we're getting to the end of the rope. And instead of like climbing up and reassessing and like, getting some longer rope and going back down with better knowledge of the path ahead of us, we're literally going to cut our rope and just take a dive. And technology will take us to very dark places very quickly. I mean, it already has. So the manipulation of information really being the primary victim, right? Truth, I guess, or veritas, information, integrity being the first and primary victim of all of this. But we hope that continue the march forward, that there will be, just like there's supposed to be in politics, the two contentious parties. It's supposed to be more than that. But the two parties have that natural friction that's supposed to have a compromise come from it out of the middle that benefits everybody. Well, hopefully, as we have those who rush headlong into it and laugh along the way, like Elon Musk laughing about Rocco's basilisk and just like, oh, well, we gotta make sure that we update the Neuralink. We don't know what happened. Ha ha. It's like, dude, that's not funny. These things are going into people's brains, sir. Not a joke. Not a joke. We hope that there will also be, folks like myself, folks like and there's not a lot of people who are worried about like the development of AI, but Elon Musk he has spoken about it. As much as he jokes about not updating the Neuralink inside of your brain. But you hope that there will be people at the forefront of the technology revolution attempting to encourage temperament. And that's with any development, whether it be on the cultural front, the technological front, or otherwise. Whenever there is growth and progress, there should always be someone somewhere at least saying, okay, well, this is great, but let's just make sure we don't get too far ahead of ourselves. With that being said, please like, share, and subscribe. We got some interesting things coming up. We should probably just get to some Rona news right off the bat. But yeah, let's get into the news. Let's see here. I mean, it's right here in your face. So let's just read this Chinese joint, and then we'll get to, that's a nice segue into coronavirus, actually. Leaked Chinese report suggests it is forcing Uyghurs to take jobs thousands of miles away to change the demographics of their homeland. Well, I mean, this would only support what we already know about the ongoing Uyghur genocide that has been occurring for decades now. The Chinese Communist Party has been systemically eliminating a ethnic minority subset of Chinese people known as the Uyghur Muslim Chinese. They're Uyghurs. They happen to be, most of them, Muslim. Some of them actually Christian, but most of them are Muslim. And they live in a particular region in China, and the Chinese aren't having it. They're about complete homogeneity. And by Chinese, I mean the Chinese Communist Party. Let's not get it twisted. But I mean, millions of these people have been incarcerated, imprisoned, obviously murdered, and other alleged things that are probably true. But yes, the more morbid you're thinking, the more likely it is to be true. Let's read. China is coercing Uyghurs to leave Xinjiang on job transfer schemes, a leaked report shows. The report meant for Chinese officials said transfers meld and assimilate Uyghur minorities. Beijing considers Uyghurs a terror risk and has worked to erase their culture. A leaked report, and that's not true, they're just Muslims. A leaked report for Chinese officials suggests Beijing is offering Uyghurs jobs thousands of miles from their homeland and pressuring them to accept in an attempt to erode their personal and regional identity. Since 2016, China has detained some 1 million Uyghurs in their homeland of Xinjiang in hundreds of prison camps across the region. China claims the Uyghurs are a terror threat and is accused of brainwashing them and trying to slash birth rates, prompting the U.S. and Canada to accuse Beijing of genocide. China's crackdown has been characterized by forced abortions and sterilizations, rape, arbitrary arrests, forced labor, and relentless surveillance. Now, the systemic rape is a new level of horror I had not heard of. I mean, it's all monstrous, but I hadn't heard about that. Because because the Chinese Communist Party looks at them as like disgusting. So it's like, why would you copulate with something you find well, whatever. I'm sorry, let me not. But in a new revelation, Beijing appears to be actively working to remove Uyghurs from their homeland and force them to assimilate into Chinese culture by sending them to work far across the country as a part of a job transfer scheme, according to a May 2018 report by Nankai University. Wow, it's 3 years ago. The report was obtained by the BBC and Dr. Adrian Zenz, a leading scholar on China's actions in Xinjiang. The report, based on surveys conducted in Xinjiang's Hotan prefecture, was put online in December 2019 but removed in mid-2020, according to his analysis. The BBC said the report was accidentally placed online. The report called the job transfer an important method of influence, meld, and assimilate Uyghur minorities and achieve a transformation of their thinking. China has often characterized its actions, including the detention of Uyghurs, as a way to purge them of so-called extremist thoughts. A visitor to a detention camp told the BBC in 2018 that he saw people being forced to sing propaganda songs in order to get food. Now, as I've read briefly, I just read here, Ghislaine Maxwell being held under brutal conditions, the brother claims. But as I've previously read, this is the same China that do we need to go on? The same China under Mao that had a genocide that killed 75 million people and caused cannibalism, countrywide cannibalism. This is the same China that is, disputing territorial waters that it claims has been in its region for who knows how long by literally attempting to provocate World War III with foreign countries. This is the same exact China that said it was experimenting on the human genome to create to create AIDS-resistant genes within humans, and then comes to find out that they're trying to create super soldiers. And they've actually created 3 of these guys. There's 3 of these people that exist. I'm not suggesting they are or were successful, but whatever genetic manipulation they did resulted in these 3 people living. So who knows? I actually should look more into that. This is the same China that hid all of its Wuhan data, all of its COVID data it lied to the WHO, then the WHO lied to the world, and it still continues to lie to this day, claiming like, oh yeah, mutations. I forgot to read you guys that article. Actually, I should probably read that in the Rona news. Oh yeah, mutations. We've been looking for Rona mutations for a while now. It's like, wait a minute, you've been doing what? Hold on. You know what? We're gonna do it. We're gonna do it. Cause, and you're looking like, what is he looking for? The light is blocking. Here we go. Okay. So here we go. Yeah, here we go. Chinese teams have been looking for vaccines for coronavirus 19 variants for a long time. Wait a minute. Full stop. So you mean to tell me first of all, how long is a long time, bro? I mean, yeah, we're gonna read in that. How long is a long time, bro? Because I mean, we're just kind of getting hip, even though we've always known that variants could exist. We're just now getting hip to the fact that we should be looking, or not like looking for them, but that we should be concerned enough to know or understand the efficacy of our vaccines towards these variants. And now you're telling me that this is something you've been doing for a long time now. This is what I'm saying. This is about the consolidation of power. There is little to no cooperation on the part of China to assist in what ostensibly kind of was their fault. Whether it be, it's zoologically jumped and mutated in their wet markets, which is unsanitary and they're not supposed to have anyway, because they okayed. Okay, so the whole thing about the wet markets is that during the famine, I'm going to give you some history lesson. During the famine, what ended up happening is that people found that the Communist Party found that they were illegally conducting these wet markets, and was leading to unintentional deaths and illnesses and things like that. So then they sanctioned it with the hope that they could have oversight included and added to it, and hopefully deter things like that from happening. And then once China kind of modernized and got to like the 2000s, they then made it illegal again, but like didn't do any crackdown. So it's like this pseudo legal sort of thing going on, because the country was broke. The country was hungry, and this created a inner working not only of commerce, but of a way to feed themselves. And so if you look at it from that perspective, or if you look at it from the perspective of, State Department cables talking about in October, before we heard about it in December, that they were concerned that the one lab that China had that was supposed to be bio-level safety 4, that they weren't following the safety protocols on. You had doctors and researchers being pissed on by bats, and yes, they were conducting coronavirus research. It's called change of function research. And basically you take a virus, you disambiguate it to understand its inner workings and what types of mutations and what types of, basically its integrity, what it's comprised of, and what each component it's comprised of does. And then you try to change it. You try to add components, add functions to it, or take away functions, or manipulate functions it already has. So, and what's further more interesting, right? Because you had the Wuhan Institute of Virology, and you had the NSAID, the National Scientific Institute of Allergic that is co-run by Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci and his organization was actually giving money and helping with research in coronavirus change of function research. In change of function research for coronaviruses. And of course, the Wuhan lab of virology is something like less than a mile away from the wet market that supposedly coronavirus started from. So no matter what school of thought, right, school of complicity that you come from, it all starts and ends in China. So my whole thing about it is, given that all of this starts and ends in your country, is kind of your fault, but no matter how you look at it, your lack of cooperation is very telling as to at the very least, what you view as obviously you view this as an opportunity to strengthen your position globally, but at the very worst could be seen as a concerted effort and plan on your part. Now, again, there's a wide spectrum in between, but that's pretty much where you're left with. Either you're duplicit and you're ridiculous, and you guys are incompetent, and you allowed this to happen through your incompetence, and now you're taking advantage of it, or you did it on purpose. So, coronavirus, Chinese teams have been looking for vaccines for variants for a long time. Researchers have been tracking and analyzing a global database of COVID-19 patients, military scientist Chen Wei says. Work began a long time ago for a new and stronger vaccine targeting mutations, she says. Chinese teams began looking at vaccines to fight COVID-19 variants a long time ago. We are running extended targeted studies tracking vaccine safety via national databases. We are also tracking the vaccine's efficacy rate against the latest mutations. A researcher in the Institute of Military Medicine under blah, 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 blah. We have been tracking and analyzing a global database of COVID-19 patients with more than 400,000 samples through genetics and biologics. Our labs then cross-examine the responses of virus variants such as the Brazilian, South African, and British strains to existing vaccines. Chen, who is also a member of the Chinese Academy of Engineering, said research began a long time ago for a new and stronger vaccine targeting mutations. While it may not be necessary to have specialist vaccines for the different variants, much depends on how they respond to the COVID-19 vaccines already being rolled out. Chen said China wanted to be prepared for any eventuality. Yes, I'm sure. I'm sure. But yeah, let's do some more COVID here. There's evidence COVID-19 vaccines just don't protect you. They may stop you from spreading the virus to others too. Yes, that's interesting that he's saying that, because he's also saying that, and the WHO is saying this as well, that it's premature and unrealistic to think that the COVID-19 vaccine will be over by the end of the year. I don't understand. Well, I mean, I understand that this is that you're trying to get people to, stupid Business Insider, you're trying to get people to take the vaccine. However, if they're, given the variant, if there's 65% efficacy for the Johnson & Johnson variant, we're presuming thus far, because again, right now we're in a sort of gray area. They haven't really figured out if the UK, the B117 variant from the UK actually has a higher mortality rate. They just know that it's more contagious. We're still seeing over a third of Americans hesitant to take the vaccine. I haven't heard anything from the FDA or Moderna, because remember we read that they were supposed to be conducting research into all of the AEFIs that we were hearing about just a few months ago. You notice there's no talk about it now. Now, perhaps, here's the weird thing. If you're going to go to bat and say, well, perhaps they've upgraded the virus, or they've changed they've changed the vaccine in some way, shape, or form. Okay, that's great. Don't you think they'd report on something like that? But I don't know. That's what I mean. For me, it's a gray area. But let's read. Because again, we read also, the WHO already said this a few months ago, that COVID is going to be endemic, and Moderna's CEO said this as well. So this isn't news. It's not news. Director of WHO's emergency program said at a briefing Monday that the world's singular focus right now should be to keep the transmission of COVID-19 low as possible and to get as many people vaccinated as quickly as possible. If we're smart, we can finish with the hospitalizations and the deaths and the tragedy associated, yes. He added the WHO was reassured by emerging data that many of the licensed vaccines appear to be helping curb the virus's explosive spread. Oh, yes. All the numbers are down. This is why Texas the governor kicked the door open, because their numbers are right where they were in March. And my whole thing about it is, I feel you, but it's like you I made the analogy, you get a rash all over your body that starts in the naughty place, and then you manage to get that rash all the way off your body right back to where it started in the naughty place, the most sensitive place, and it's like, that's when you got to get the most discipline. That's when you really got to double down and like, okay, we're right back to where we were in March of last year. Literally a year ago, same numbers. We made it. Didn't get any worse, didn't get any better. If we hold the line as we've had since it's obviously been effective, hey, what do you know? Maybe we can get the numbers lower. Maybe we can anything's possible, right? So my whole thing about it is, I'm definitely, because I've always been an advocate of like watching the hypocrisy of the governorship and of democratic leadership in general, basically, because they've drawn it along partisan lines. Unfortunately, even though it's a health crisis, they've politicized the hell out of it. And you've seen the hypocrisy out of Newsom, out of Governor Whitmore, out of that one. I've read it ad nauseum. Every time it comes out, I read it. So the whole thing for me isn't a matter of like, it's not a matter of lockdown. It's like, you're so close. You're so close. Why not just hold on a little longer? But yeah, he's kicking the door open full throttle. Let's continue reading. He warned against complacency, saying that nothing was guaranteed in an evolving epidemic and the virus is very much in control. His comments echoed those by U.S. CDC last week, who stressed that although the number of cases and deaths have declined in recent weeks, the trajectory of the pandemic is still concerning due to emerging variants that could be stalling progress. Right, but at the same time, they're not. And here's the thing: it's like people are weary, and they're not giving anyone any sort of. And here's the thing, because you can't. Every time, if it mutates and gains a function that creates a higher mortality rate, then that is that. Do you understand? You can't put a number on something like this, unfortunately, as much as we would like to. And so that's understandable. At the same time, I don't think the numbers have ever warranted the blanket lockdown as it has, especially since for the most part they've hung strong. They've hung strong for the most part, both globally and in America, to around the 1.8 to like 2.2, 2.4 percentage, which is the same, or which is nearly the same as flu. When we actually had a flu statistic, we read that on the show. We no longer technically have a flu statistic. It's the pneumonia, influenza, and COVID statistic, the PIC. But yeah, So I just, what do you do? What do you do? I'm glad I'm not in this position, that I'm in the position that they are. But let me see here. I'm going through. Let's see here. All right, let's see what this has. I was like, wait, did I read this already? New COVID variants found in New York and California. Yeah, I know. I don't. Let's just hold on. As the country races to vaccinate many Americans, both New York and California are reporting new virus races back in February 25th, mind you. So this is like 3 days ago. That might be more contagious than the original strain. Are they going to talk about the UK strain? No, this is a different strain. In New York, the new variant carries a mutation that may weaken the effectiveness of vaccines. Oh boy, that's exactly what I was talking. There you go. That's exactly what they were talking about. There you go. 1 second here. Let me clean this up. All right. So a mutation that may weaken the effectiveness of COVID-19 vaccines has been identified in the B.1.526 variant. It was first discovered in November and now accounts for about 1 in 4 viral sequences in a database shared by scientists. In a paper published today by Columbia University, authors noted today is in February 25th, noted a steady increase in the detection rate of B.1.526 cases from late December to mid-February, with a rise of 12% in 2 weeks. Cases have been detected across New York City, researchers said, and threaten to once again make the city a hotspot. They say the strain's unique set of spike mutations may also pose an antigenic challenge for current interventions, such as vaccines and monoclonal antibody therapies. We have a situation where every time we get a handle on it, it mutates. Period. That's what seems to be happening. Okay, we had a mutation. Okay, so when it came out, it came out. And you started to see upper respiratory infections and that mutation take place around like the summertime. And then it kind of cooled off, and then we had an uptick in the fall, which is what everyone was expecting. And remember, initially it wasn't affecting children, and then it started affecting younger folks, and then we started seeing our first cases of infants dying. And so now here we are past the fall, into the winter, about to come into spring, and the numbers, it literally has made a loop, and we're just about right back where we were in March. This is seeming like what happens with the cold and flu season, right? Except, of course, the first time around it was novel. So when we get to cold and flu season, we will see an increase, like just as we presumed in the fall, and that happened. And then as it becomes warmer, but here's the thing. As it becomes warmer and you're starting to see the numbers decrease, you're starting to see things open up, will we see the numbers increase, right? And if we see the numbers increase, what does that mean? Because my whole question is, how many people walk around unknowingly with the cold or flu during the summer season? Summer colds exist, right? Cold is a year-round thing. It just increases in the cold and flu season. It's constant. And so my whole thing is, it's not like, I don't think we're ever going to see a point in which COVID is 100% gone. I don't think that's possible. But again, I'm not an epidemiologist or a virologist. I'm just a nerd with a lot of time on my hands. Let's read about California's variant. California variant dominant in 44 counties. In California, variant B.1.427 and B.1429 now makes up more than 50% of cases in 44 counties. Yada, yada, yada. Pfizer and Moderna explore variant protection. They announced yesterday that they're testing their vaccines against the current variants, and in Moderna's case, it has shipped a new vaccine targeting the South African variant to the National Institute of Health. They say that they're testing if a third dose of vaccine will trigger an enhanced immune response against new variants. There are also talks with regulatory authorities about testing a new vaccine modified. I was going to say, I don't know if giving them more is going to do it. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to show you the article. Moderna yesterday announced it to ship the vaccine against the B.1.3.5 variant. So, I mean, Godspeed for travel there. More Rona, because I've really been skipping on the Rona. As we know, Johnson & Johnson got authority, but I believe it's still only 65%, right? Does it mention its percentage? No, of course not. Johnson & Johnson, 65%. I always get the specifics of this wrong. Okay, so it's 65% shown. Words. Okay, here we go. Johnson & Johnson COVID single-shot vaccine was shown to be 66% effective in preventing moderate and severe disease in a global phase 3 trial, but 85% effective against severe disease. The vaccine was 72% effective against moderate and severe disease in the U.S. because there was a global trial and then there was a U.S. trial. Interesting. Because it's like, well, what do you mean 66 effective in preventing moderate to severe disease, but 85% effective in severe disease? Well, that means that it is less effective for it's more effective the worse you have it. So if you kind of, and that's the weird thing, it's like, all right, and it's not a worse you have it because it's a vaccine supposed to be preventative, misspoke. If we're thinking in terms of viral load and you get the Johnson & Johnson shot, if you do not get a high viral load, then you will not have moderate to severe infection. That's the whole thing. Because remember, this is all based upon how much you ingest. Viral load. And it's with anything, right? Someone sneezes, and like depending, it's like someone sneezes in your face, you're probably going to get sick off that one sneeze, you know? But if they sneeze in your vicinity, you get a little on you and you don't breathe it in, you'll be all right. And it's all about how much of the bacteria you take in. But it's 85% effective against severe disease. So by taking it, you are unlikely to get severe symptomatic expression. So that's good. It's not 100%, it's not 90%, but 85 is good. But 66% against effective against moderate to severe, it means it's not effective against a medium viral load. It's only really effective against heavy loads. So you won't get I don't know how to explain this. And then and it's weird reading this because it's like, well, wait, you would think either it does or it doesn't. And it's like, well, no, because this is about the severity of COVID in which you incur. Because some people, like we talked about, some people are completely asymptomatic, dude. Some people get infected and they don't even know, and they just go around infecting other people. So it's man, this is a nightmare, man. This is a nightmare of science. So let's talk about double masking. Do you want to talk about? I don't really want to talk about double masking, but I will cover it because it's. I find it interesting. While the numbers are going down, now one of my Funkos fell. While the numbers are going down, and states are opening up, and there's different variants of COVID coming out. Some that are more contagious, some that we don't know if the vaccines are effective against. And we're right on the cusp of in May being able to vaccine every adult in the United States. Like we're right on a turning point, both good and bad. These variants coming out are really going to be a problem going forward into the next cold and flu season. At the same time, Biden just said in May we're going to have enough vaccine for everyone in the United States. Wish we had enough for everybody on the planet, but one thing at a time. We're going to have vaccines for everybody in the country. That's an amazing, amazing achievement. Again, I'm all about options. I personally am not going to take it, but if you wish to, I want it to be there for you to take, right? And especially for the elderly, and you got elderly parents, things like that, and stuff like that, relatives, etc. At the same time, we don't know if the vaccines are going to be effective against the variants. We're literally determining that as I speak. That's happening. It's an ongoing discovery, right? And it's like, what do we do? We can't I don't want to say we can't afford, because like I said at the top of the show, if the Fed Reserve wants to pump money into the economy again and again and again, it can. It's more than able to. You have the Fed chairman right now, Powell, saying like, "Hey guys, relax. Take a load off. Don't worry about it. Inflation's going to remain the same. You guys are freaking out over nothing." And it's like, "No, guy. We know how this works. The more money you print, the more on the back end we're going to have to pay for it with devalued cost of our money and an inflated or a marked up cost of goods. We know how this works just on a basic level." So but that's a different story. But the thing is, like, we're turning one way with vaccines for everybody and everything opening up and our numbers being at what they were literally a year ago. At the same time, we now, a year later, have variants that could have a higher mortality rate and at the very least have a higher rate of communicability. So, man, this sucks. Yeah. And in the meanwhile, they're politicizing everything and, stimulus is being restricted and like 1 in 6 restaurants are gone and millions of people, like literally something like 40% of the jobs lost over the last year and a half is not going to come back. And now they're talking about double masking, even though at first, remember, at the beginning of this, Fauci was like, yeah, you don't need to wear a mask. And then, he changed his tune because he was worried that masks was going to run out of supply. And it's like, at this point, I don't believe anything anyone says. I just stay away from everyone. Wash my hands. It's just do the same things that I've been doing every year come flu season, and really all the time. I don't get in people's faces like that. But anyway, CDC endorses double masking as COVID vaccine push continues. This was February 10th. Remember, we're reading the backdated stuff here. CDC released new data Wednesday to support the use of double masking, coverings that fit the face more snugly, and coverings that fit the face more... Okay. So they couldn't have just said use coverings that fit the face more snugly. To more effectively prevent the spread of COVID-19, a concept that has been debated as more transmissible variants surface around the globe. The report provides several other options for better mask wearing, including cloth masks over medical, which have metal pins to secure the fit, or medical procedure masks alone with knotted ear loops and tucked in sides to avoid gaps. It's also emphasized that a more tapered fit of face coverings were effective in preventing the virus from being transmitted or contracted. I don't think it takes the CDC telling me to keep the mask tight to my face is necessary. Then again, I was reading the other day, I don't know if I even saved the article, they were saying talking during hairdresser appointments is even is recommended against. But I mean, you think about it, and I guess it makes sense, because when you're talking, but the thing is, you're talking but you're wearing a mask, so it's like, wait a minute, back up. If I can talk with a mask on and still give it to somebody, why haven't you told us that before then? That's because really the whole thing about it is the same concept, the same process as during flu season. Don't get in people's faces. I don't understand what's so hard about this. Wash your hands, you nasty person, right? Don't get in people's faces, right? Don't like wipe your nose with your sleeve, right? Cough into your elbow. This is basic stuff. This is stuff we've known, okay? But yeah, check this out. I did save it because I am vigilant and diligent and all of the above. You can spread COVID-19 by talking in hair salons or during a massage, even while wearing a mask, research suggests. And there's Business Insider to strike. I wonder if they recommend that toe folks who do your toes and stuff. Let's see if we can find another. This is what I do when I don't want to pay. I just Google the headline and I just go and find a free version of it. It's not always successful, obviously, but you get the gist. Most people know by now to wear a mask in public settings. Yeah, it goes to Business Insider. Okay, but you get the point. Yeah, so we are definitely on a critical, pivotal point, and we're being told a bunch of different. We're being led in multiple directions, right? Here we have. At first, we were saying like herd immunity. Herd immunity was unlikely because we're going to need, because Fauci kept raising the number. It was like 75, then 85. I'm sorry, 70. It was like 65, and then 75, and then 85. And then 90. And at 90, he was like, I finally feel like the American public, now that Trump's not in office, that was the subtext, I finally feel like the American public is ready to hear what's really on my mind. And then you have this. We'll have herd immunity by April. What? So you're telling me in less than a month herd immunity. Now, mind you, of course, this is an opinion and commentary. But remember, media helps to shape and form the concepts and perceptions for the public. So you have, on the one end, you have the administration saying one thing. You have the CDC and Fauci saying other things. You have the media that's supposed to be covering them, kind of skewering things a bit. And all the while, like, the reality is this. We need to be vigilant. The numbers have dropped. But if we go, like we saw what happened, what was it, with Florida? When they opened up the beaches all at once? We saw what happened there. We know what happens when we take our foot off the brake all at once. So, my whole thing is just to be vigilant and to be wary. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Large venues, Cuomo said large venues can open February 23rd with testing, but I think he pushed that date back because this was from February 11th. Yeah, definitely backdated news. But yeah, we're gonna push off from Rona here. If you guys remember, DC is under occupation, basically. DC's been under occupation since the Capitol Hill insurrection. And apparently on March 4th, because the justification, because listen, you had representatives, Democrat and Republican alike, saying, like, listen, we don't need this occupation here. We don't need this barbed wire fencing here. Please go. Nothing's happened. There's no chatters, nothing. And so literally, like 2 days before the 4th, while all of the pressure has been put on the FBI and put on, the National Guard to remove the troops, they all of a sudden were like, oh my God, there's going to be another terrorist attack. There's going to be another. First of all, there wasn't one in the first place. Let's stop. But secondly, we got to keep the troops here because it's going to happen March 4th. Now, as we know, today is March 4th. I wanted to wait to cover this till March 4th. I knew it was going to happen. It's like, yeah, okay. But, I can't see the headline. Feds pledge another DC domestic terror attack will not happen again. Because they pledged to protect us. Nearly 8 weeks after a huge angry mob overpowered Justice Department Friday promised that such a terror plot would never again be executed. The January 6th attack will not happen again. But some reporters, during a call with some reporters about how the DOJ is ramping up resources for a next wave of domestic terror. We must return to an America where no one fears violence for who they are or what they believe, said Carlin, who previously worked as an assistant attorney general under the Obama administration and was chief of staff to Mueller. A few weeks ago when Carlin was sworn in as acting attorney general, he described being unnerved by the appearance of checkpoints, armed agents, and hallways filled with hundreds of soldiers. Since the Capitol assault following January 6th, a political rally, blah, 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 federal authorities have charged more than 300 people, according to Carlin, and arrested at least 280 suspected violent extremists. Are currently looking. They're still currently looking for suspects. Federal agents are now circulating pictures. Okay, so that didn't say much. That was not the article I thought it was. I had this article. That's hold on, March 4th. Right, there's literally. Oh, okay. I have it already queued up. Democrats used March 4th QAnon attack. I was ahead of myself, sorry. The QAnon attack to justify military occupation of Washington, D.C. And guess what? It never fucking happened. What a surprise. I've been telling you since the beginning that this is about security theater. This is about enabling the security apparatus to function unimpeded. For every incident, there will always 3-month-old babies are racist, says Arizona Department of Education's Equity Toolkit. I don't think I'm going to do woke news today. But that will always, there will always, for every crisis, there will always be a contingent of people crying out for more laws, for more constraint. When in reality, right, the amount of overbearing laws that exist now, the Orwellian society that we live in already didn't prevent the event from occurring. So how is it that more of the same will actually have the desired effect? It will. Yeah, so U.S. Capitol Police announced Wednesday that it discovered a threat from a militant group attempting to breach the Capitol, prompting the House to suspend its Thursday session. QAnon supporters declared in recent weeks that Donald Trump would retake office on March 4th, which was the nation's original inauguration day up until the 1930s, according to the Post. Excuse me. Capitol Police said that they had uncovered a plot from extremist militants who were threatening to storm the Capitol in a similar way to what occurred on Jan 6th. The threat was taken seriously enough for Capitol Police to stiffly bolster security for Congress to suspend a session set for Thursday, the day of the alleged plot. Today, militia violence extremists were planning to take control of the Capitol and remove Democratic lawmakers on or about March 4th. When Thursday came, the threats were unactualized, with only a handful of tourists present in the area, as well as normal foot traffic. Cernovich hoax. That's the word you're looking for. Damn it, I'm sorry. I thought I had the article. There you go. For viewers. For listeners, it doesn't matter. This is how many people showed up at the Capitol today. One American News Network, Jack Posobiec. Jack himself. Police hijack helicopter ambulance for aerial surveillance. Jesus. These are the updates that I get. So Jack Posobiec in and of himself, is decent, relatively, maybe, but like One American News Network, I can't stand, honestly. A few QAnon followers were present, peacefully hanging outside the Capitol barbed wire fences. John and Karen Carson took time off of work, yada yada yada. If it doesn't happen, we'll obviously be sad because it didn't happen while we were here, but we believed it's because people went there to go see violence. But why Toronto is suing a man for helping the homeless? Yeah, I've seen that before, actually. I've seen people get arrested for trying to give homeless people food, all sorts of stuff. This country is kind of trash. Listen, it's like anything. There's good and there's bad. It's just like the rot of the fruit is overtaking everything. That's the problem. Yes, there's good and there's bad with everything, but the rot is so deep that like it's gone to its deepest point and is now rooting outward through literally everything and anything it possibly can. Biden strikes stimulus deal with Senate Democrats. Yeah, so this deal, as I mentioned, it removed the eligibility of stimulus for like 17 million people. It's like 12 million adults, 5 million kids. And then reduce the time frame for the unemployment to August instead of through September. And then let's see what else there is. And I'm sure I'll give you a further dissection tomorrow. Senate Democrats and Joe Biden settled a last-minute debate over the $1.9 trillion pandemic relief bill on Wednesday, choosing to keep federal unemployment payments at $400 but narrow the phase-out of the measure's $1,400 check. The breakthrough came just hours before debate was expected to kick off, but a delayed response from the Congressional Budget Office on its budgetary impacts punted the first test vote on the legislation to Thursday. But didn't they cancel their session on Thursday? The Senate is waiting for the CBO to confirm that its bill doesn't run afoul of the rules of budget reconciliation, the process that allows passage of the package with a simple majority. And plans by Senator Ron John, to force the reading of a bill that clocks in at more than 500 pages threatens to kick the Senate's work into the weekend. Johnson said he will stay on the floor to ensure the Senate clerk has read the entire thing. Here's the thing. Really? Here's the thing. We know that this probably is laden with all sorts of pork and bullshit. We know that. But we need the money. And it's like, it's one of those things where I actually can understand, because we read about the, what was it, the NDAA, or was it the omnibus bill? I think it was the omnibus bill. The government budget bill, the omnibus bill. It was 12 bills in one, and on it with things like tax credits for racehorse owners, and a declaration that China couldn't choose the next Dalai Lama, stuff like that. They had dedicated money to Israel for something outside of like the aid that we provide, and just stuff like that. So when you have cases like that of massive pork spending and irregularity on a bill that's supposed to be about American issues and American economics and functions, it's understandable why you'd want to filibuster the shit out of it. But in something like this, in a situation like this, you're caught between a rock and a hard place, and just stop it. Stop politicizing this. He says, he didn't say that. He says this. That's what I'll have to do. It's not about delaying things. Sure. It's about educating the public on what's in the bill and what isn't. And it isn't a COVID relief bill. Despite the delay, the Democrats took a huge step forward, wrangling the lockstep unity they need, yada, yada, yada. So here we go. The bill's 1,400 payments will now phase out completely at $80,000 per year for individuals and $160,000 for joint filers. This is for your 2019 taxes. The phase out will start at $75,000 and $150,000. So basically, you get a check if you make up to $75,000, and then it decreases, I think, by $100 or something every increment. I forgot what the increment is, but it decreases by a certain amount every certain amount, up to $80,000. So you only have a $5,000 window there. That's it. And then for joint filers, it's 150 to 160,000. That's it. There's no, because remember before it phased out in a gradient. So you basically could get it up until the last dollar that was there. This time around, they're just like, no, just forget it. And remember, this is off of your 2019 tax returns. So hey, man, you could have made like 500,000 that year, and then COVID hit, and now you're you know, who knows what. I have a dark imagination. I was gonna say some volatile stuff, but yeah, let me just keep it PG. Your situation could not be 500,000 a year. We don't know, and the thing is, they could like tax it on the back end if they really wanted to do something like this. If they really wanted to be specific and stringent with it. But the bill will retain $400 in extra weekly unemployment payments through August rather than cut them to $300 as suggested by Manchin. So here's the thing. It was like cut them to $300, keep it through September, or keep it $400 and end them in August. These are horrible, horrible, horrible ultimatums. In an interview, King Manchin said he approves of the changes and doesn't intend to offer an amendment to change them. Republicans are expected to offer their own similar amendment, however. It's going to be a good package that's going to help an awful lot of people. And it's targeted. The main thing is it's targeted to get to the people in need. How would you know if the person was in need if these are off taxes from 2 years ago? When asked about the compromise, Speaker Pelosi said, "We're interested in seeing the total package when it comes over. So far, so good." This is also the lady, mind you, that managed to talk her way out of a $2 trillion stimulus to 1.7, the 1.4 to less than 1, to what do we eventually agree on? It was like 900 billion, some garbage, trash. They trashed her house for that too. I mean, allegedly, we don't know. Not that I condone such action. However, it is not surprising. And then, of course, we just have insult to injury. Biden Senate Democrats agree to limit eligibility for $1,400 checks. They can fact check it. I'm not even going to read the fact check. It's real. I don't know. Why are you fact checking something that is openly being discussed is beyond me. Oh, they're not going to let me read. I do look at them in a different light. Tensions are high in Congress as Democrats want consequences for election-denying Republicans. See, this is, again, the problem, and I will always highlight this. There is a difference between those who support violence and those who support following the legal channels and avenues that exist constitutionally for rectifying election results, period. Yeah, so, the problem here is trying to, conflate the two things. They're vastly different. And so you have this, what's the word? There's a word I'm looking for. But yeah, it's a conflation of two vastly different things. They're inherently different. One is an expression of an inability to cultivate or codify a single legitimate avenue of reprisal towards what you think is an illegitimate election result, whereas the other is the exact antithesis. It is the literal process that exists within the system that allows them to challenge the results. I don't. The reason this is done, the reason it's done, is to politicize the issue as a whole. Now, I'm not condemning or condoning the idea of election results distribution. The thing for me is the decreeing that the utilization of a constitutional process is evil. That's a scary precedent to set, in my opinion. But we've been all about scary precedents for a while now. So, but yeah, and you will see this. And so we've read about like the Truth and Reconciliation hearings they want to have, and the 9/11 style commission and all this. And it's like, wow, I cannot wait for the Orwellian McCarthyism to truly begin. But coming up at the end of the show, a few things we missed. Former Trump officials eye bids for political office. And I mean, this is everything from like former Trump aides to the former director of the office, the ODNI, the Office of Naval Intelligence. So at least there's a competent person there. Trump endorses primary rival challenging Republican impeachment supporter. He's become more of a figurehead within the party since he's left than when he was around. Unreal. Cuomo issues a public apology in wake of scandals and then says he won't resign. Is anyone surprised? I mean, the entire time I've spoken about this man and how he was, hagiographically looked at as some sort of godlike figure, the anti-Trump, and lo and behold, he's just as perverse and just as I mean, he's an asshole. He's an asshole. And I mean, like, what would you expect from a New York politician? First of all, what would you expect from a politician? What would you expect from a New York politician? And I love it. They all use the same language. Remember, he was just talking to the reporter. Oh, I will destroy you. Blah, blah, blah. Just like the White House staffer who was like, oh, to the political reporter who was rightly reporting on his inappropriate relationship with a reporter who was covering the White House, the conflict of interest there. He was like, I will destroy your life. Cuomo's sorry for the remarks. Aide misinterpreted as harassment. That's right. It's the aide's fault. It's the aide's fault. All right. So there's enough of that. White supremacist sentenced to nearly 20 years plot to bomb Colorado synagogue. Now, we don't want to gloss over right-wing violence. It definitely exists. But I'm not even going to go there. I'm even going to go there. Let's save that for tomorrow. Woke news. But like I said, a lot happening, a lot going on. But at the end of the day, we have to make sure to not like imbibe and indulge or overindulge on the toxicity. It is our role each as an individual to not contribute to the poison that is other people, really. You cannot decide or determine what others will or won't do, but you can choose how you react to that, how you cultivate yourself, how you guard against becoming the monster that you so vehemently find distasteful. It's tough. It's all tough, but that's the beauty, and the gift, and the curse of life, really. That being said, please like, share, and subscribe if you dig what I'm doing. And yeah, just be well to yourself and to each other. Take care.